Before we begin, I want to thank our corporate partner, Farm Credit Canada. At this time, I'd also like to recognize and thank Linda Nielsen, CAPS District 3 board member, and Andrew Melenchenko, CAPS District 11 board member. It has been great working with Linda and Andrew around the board table or virtual table and hearing your perspective. I know we'll continue to work together moving forward as well. At my address, I talked about the need for engagement and how it's essential to our work. Yesterday, 7 resolutions were brought to the floor. The following resolutions were carried by CAP delegates. Non-arm's length transactions from District 4, noxious weed from District 10, funding for breeding programs, Manitoba Oak Growers Association, trade and market development programs, Manitoba Oak Growers Association, increased access and awareness to pesticide recycling, District 3. I'd also like to note that the Manitoba Hydro resolution from District 4 was defeated. The Northern Prairie Producer Access to Port of Churchill, District 12, resolution was recommended to the Transportation Committee for further review. We'll take back the resolutions that passed, and we are referring them back to our team and look at how we can tackle them. And I do want to say, delivering CAP's vision requires the effort of everyone around our table. We need you to get involved, whether through these opportunities or by joining a local district. You can help chart the direction of the sector through CAP's policy committees, meetings, task force, and working groups. So just a couple of things with regards to housekeeping for today. Before we get started, I'd like to go over some housekeeping rules. The meeting is being recorded and will be available on CAP's YouTube channel. There will be no verbal roll call today. We will use the meeting participant list to keep a record of who attended. If you wish to speak during the meeting, please use the Q&A function in Zoom and staff or the chair will recognize you. So the first item that we have on our agenda today is a grain marketing seminar. So also noted yesterday how it's possible that this year could be very challenging for farmers in parts of the province. Feed, water, and subsoil moisture levels are all a concern. I want to emphasize that there are programs available like agri-recovery, Hay West, and agri-insurance. Yesterday, Manitoba Agriculture announced that the dollar values for many crops insured are up from 2021, which is a positive sign. And I encourage you to look into your individual coverage levels and how they reflect on your farm. The MASS program also announced other improvements, and they are a good step forward and are based on recent consultations. When it comes to marketing, we hear from our members that they want us to focus on education, which has been a big part of our work over the last 6 months. And as we go forward into 2022, it's important to talk to MASC and to look at programs like Hay West or agri-recovery. Today, we're happy to welcome Javier Vargas from MNP for a presentation on grain marketing and risk management. Afterwards, there will be an opportunity to ask questions through the Q&A feature. I have a bit of information on Javier, so I will read that at this point. Javier Vargas is a manager with MNP Farm Management Consulting Group in Brandon. Drawing on more than 2 decades of experience, Javier developed practical solutions for his clients, helping them reduce costs, increase profitability, and better understanding of the current and future challenges of their production enterprises. With a deep knowledge of agriculture and livestock sectors in Canada and abroad, Javier's Cross-industry expertise includes human resource management, conflict resolution, dairy, livestock, hog, and poultry operations, as well as grain production. He's experienced in marketing, sales, logistics, and delivering insight advice on financial, logistics, and succession issues to clients. Javier holds an animal science degree, a postgraduate diploma in agribusiness from LaSalle University in Colombia, and an agrologist designation approved by the Manitoba Institute of Agrologists. So welcome, Javier, and the floor is yours.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Bill. Once you're working for more than 25 years, I think it's getting longer and longer and longer. So we're going to talk today a little bit about marketing, grain marketing. Let me see if I can share my presentation. Okay, can everybody see it? Can somebody tell me if you guys have seen it?
Yes, looks great.
Perfect. So, just to give a little bit more background, a few years ago, I worked for one of the biggest companies in Canada, buying grain. I manage a couple elevators for the company, so I have a little bit of information on what's going on inside the elevators. Basically, my presentation is going to talk about facts from the farmer perspective and facts from the elevator perspective, just to try to get a common ground to help you guys going forward with your contracts, and how can we work better to have a better relationship, if you will, with the grain elevators. So a little bit of background about the MMP for people who don't know us or doesn't know exactly what we do. We are more than accounting firm. So we have about 18,000 clients, agricultural clients across Canada. So at this point, we are from Vancouver to New Brunswick. So we are all over the place. Also, we have about 6,000 specialists in agriculture, and some of the services that we have include from accounting to insolvency, and basically the group that I'm part of on the consulting group is a farm management consulting group. So in Manitoba, we are about 13 or 14 of us just doing this job, working with farmers directly on financials and some of accounting services, bookkeeping, etc. So that's what we are. So the next one is the agenda. So what are we going to talk about today? First of all, we're going to talk about what happened last year in 2022. We have a few facts that see if you guys agree with what we think happened last year. And then we're going to talk about how the grain companies operate. So understand a little bit deeper how they do and where they come from. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how the farmers do this type of contract. How do the contracts and where the point comes. And then at the end, we're going to talk about the financial risk discussion. Is try to understand how can we use the tools that are available on the elevators or on the tools you have, just to avoid the situation like last year happened again. I know there was a totally unusual situations, but let's go through it. So I'd encourage you guys to make some questions. I don't want to be just talking all the time. If you have some questions that we can talk and we can discuss, that will be great. So I understand I have about an hour. So yeah, my presentation is short. It's just want to see if we can talk a little bit more. that. So what happened last year? Definitely, you guys know what happened last year. So really dry. The prices go up. All those things that you know. Some people was more affected than other people in this area. I'm located in Souris, Manitoba. This area wasn't affected too much. I would say, generally speaking, the farmer has a decent crop. The prices help with this little when the low the production, but prices help them out. So, but national, like around Canada, everything was down. Like you guys know that. So that's what happened. I would call it a perfect storm. That's what happened last year on our point of view. All the things that could have wrong for some people went wrong, right? So since April. This is kind of all a map that you guys see. You guys have been working with that map, or we see it everywhere. So if you guys have any questions, be open to. I'm open to hear it. If not, I think that's what happened. So why as a farmers do contracts? What is the reason that we do contract as a farmers? The first thing that we think is important is you need to lock your profit. Right? If you forward contract, is because you know that the price that it offering you in August, September, or whatever is the time, is good for your business. So you're making a profit, whatever your margin profit is. If you want to go 10%, 50, whatever it is your margin for your business, that's what you do. You lock your profit. You minimize your risk, having ensure your profit, so you know how much are you gonna get. The second thing that you do is to manage your inventory. Some people don't have enough bean space. Some people don't have beans at all, right? So just to help move some stuff out of your farm, so you don't have to move everything in one specific time, things like that. Some people do that just for the inventory management. Well, especially when the farms are in a good financial position, people just play on that using that. Just sell a little bit here and there, forward contract, and then hold. Cash flow planning, on my experience, is one of the biggest, and many farmers do, is just basically forward contract for when they need to pay bills, right? And it's not the best strategy most of the times. I know some people are just, that's the only option they have to get some cash. It's not a better strategy because you won't never necessarily get the best price, right? It's just kind of whatever you need the cash, you sell it that time, and then move on, right? Security, delivery, and space at the elevators. Like we know, like September, October, and sometimes beginning of November, elevators are really tight. Everybody is bringing grain, so you don't have a space. So you have to manage your space at home. You need cash. You need to move that grain that time. So you need to do it. So that's kind of you get forced to do that, and that's the other reason. The other big reason that people do is you have your financial risk, right? Your financial risk is based on your price risk and your production risk. Both has a lot of internal events that changing, but having your price risk shifting to your production risk is kind of one thing less for you to worry. So some people just understand what is going to be my profit, lock into it, I forget about it. So I know I'm going to make some money if I get it to the elevator, but now I need to worry about how can I get that grain into the elevator. Mother Nature, every time I've been working in Canada for 20 years with farmers all the time, and is everyone in the world. We have a little bit of a farm back in Colombia as well, and the Mother Nature just play a big card into this. So I know it's a little bit difficult, but that's how we forward contract. Maybe you do it not consciously, but that's what is happening. And the last thing is just I want to explain a little bit is just this financial risk that I talk about it, which is just two things: your price and your production. Your price is based in a lot of things that happen to the price. It's not just the elevator, just the local elevator, or what Viterra decided to pay, or whatever. You guys know that there is more than that. There's a bunch of things that affect that price, that the elevator is going to give it to you in that time, or even if you go and just sell it on site. And your production risk, again, there's a bunch of things that affect that, right? Affect that. If on top of my head I would mention just five, but it's lots, right? Your financial risk. You guys have a little bit of help on that, and don't forget about your price risk also helping with your crop insurance, your agri-stability, of all those programs, even private insurance that are coming now from Saskatchewan to offer you insurance for your crop. It is going to help you to manage that risk and maybe manage those forward contracts a little bit better, knowing your insurance. Bill just mentioned about all the changes that happened yesterday on crop insurance. I haven't had time to read it, but I know changes are a little bit difficult, and maybe sometimes we don't understand all those changes. So I encourage you guys to actually study a little bit and just look deeper into those options as a risk management tool that we have. And it's going to be my pitching, my sales pitching here. So we have a tool called risk management tool, so where we can analyze all those details for you guys if you guys needed it. Any questions here, guys? I'm talking too much about this. So what's going on?
And just a reminder to everyone, if you do have any questions for Javier, you can type them in through the Q&A function, and I'm happy to read them out loud, and we can do this throughout the presentation as well.
Yeah. So is any other reason you guys think you do forward contracts? Is any other reason than these 6 that I have here? It's probably any other one, but I don't think, I don't know. Does anyone have any opinion? Let's talk about a little bit about grain companies, how the grain companies operate. So basically, the grain companies operate this way, and I would say I know 2 of the big companies in Canada. I don't mention the names, but they work pretty much the same. They change a little bit on the internally, but pretty much the same. The basics are the same. So basically, these grain companies deal with 2 ends of transactions. Let's put an example: an elevator in Hamiota, Cargill Hamiota, for instance. Cargill Hamiota is part of the Cargill, but at the end of the day, it has to work independently. Independently means that they has to make, it has to be sustainable for itself. Not necessarily need to make money. I mean, not necessarily need to be profitable, but need to sustain itself. That was the mandate that these companies do to these elevators. So you need to be sustainable. So the head office won't send money to pay bills or things like that. So the elevator has to be sustainable itself. And at the end, so they have the head office in one point, or the merchandising people who sell the grain internationally in that case, and have you guys as a farmers. So when I work there, I feel like I was in the middle, right? Like kind of the middleman. So both sides coming to me with expectations, both sides coming to people with needs. So that's one of the things that's how they work in that time. Again, last year was a totally different year. Like in my 20 years in Canada, I never see this thing before. I don't know if you guys saw it, but that was a perfect storm for some farmers and a perfect storm absolutely for some elevators. Talking with people in Viterras and P&H, and they kind of mentioned to me the same thing. It's just they having a lot of pressure as well. We talk about the balance of transaction. So the balance of transaction is they need to balance their production to the end, and everything started in November. So like in November 2021, the companies, these companies start projecting 2022 and start selling grain in 2022, because that's how the market works. So based on your inputs or seed that is committed from you guys in November, December, January, the merchandising people in head office start working towards selling that grain in the future. So let's say canola and the futures today are $18, so they're probably selling it at that point, probably more unless we don't know, right? So that's what happened. So after when spring comes and there is more intentions of seeding, is when all these numbers start going up, and the company's getting a little bit better understanding on what is coming, and so they can sell it. That's what I mean with the balance of transaction, is what the merchandising need for this grain movements and the port, what the port need and what is coming through the pipe. So it's important to keep that communication. Now the next point is the contracts. When you guys contract with companies, they make the assumption that the grain is going to come, and then make the assumption that you guys can produce it. They sell it. So they buy it, they sell it, always mix it and blend it. You guys know that the money is not made at the elevator itself. The money is made at the ports, where everything is mixed and blend and send it overseas. And we will talk a little bit more about that in later on.
Javier, I did. If I can interject, there is a question here. If we can go to the audience.
Yes, for sure.
One farmer is asking how, in general, farmers can offset the risk of forward price contracts, where either you don't have the production to fill the contract, or, for example, the prices by the time, from when you sold it to when it comes due, prices have rallied. And so how can they offset those risks, in your opinion?
Okay, in my opinion, and again, last year was a totally different year. But in my opinion, is you as a farmer, before harvest, you know what's going on. You understand what's going on. You know you don't have grain. You won't have the grain. You probably have the hope that you get some rain. So if you have your crop insurance, if you made your insurance based on having those risks, knowing, it will help you manage that risk. That's one point. The second point is, if you just go and bought your insurance like every year, right? You just go on 80% and pay, right, and move on, and you didn't. The only way is like every other, like you own that grain to the elevator, because you sign a contract, right? So the elevator pretty much own that elevator, that grain. So you need to go and try to negotiate with them, like having a conversation. I work with a lot of colonies And I always tell the guys, when you have issues with the grain, talk to the elevator so they can help you out. What happened last year is, and I'm going to spend a little bit, when I was a manager there, my compensation as a manager, part of my compensation was for the volume of grain that I was moved, right? So if I didn't move that grain, my compensation as a manager and all the employees of the elevator were affected for that movement. So if the grain is not coming and I'm the manager, I try to help this farmer, right? But when we have 200 growers coming at you with the same issue, knowing that you are going to get affected personally, and your employees at the elevator are going to get affected personally, and of course the farmer has not, it's not his fault, right? It's just how the system work on these big companies. So you as a manager, of course, need to defend your employees, right? And maybe I'm getting a little bit deep into things that I shouldn't say, but that's how it happens. So basically conversation with your elevator will be clue, and having your risk management plan since the beginning, having an educated decision on your risk management will probably won't take 100% of the risk out, but they will help you manage that risk on a better levels where you can, that your operation can survive one bad year, right? So the issue that we see sometimes is that some operations are so vulnerable that they cannot survive a bad year, right? So those tools that I mentioned to you, the crop insurance, accessibility, those private insurance, we need to make a good decision and educated decision to lower our risk, right? We can never gonna take the risk completely out of it. It's gonna be totally expensive, like you cannot do it. So you lower your risk. That will be the only way that I can think of. And then open dialogue with the elevators on time, right? So you don't need to wait until September. So you gotta, and you probably feel, because I talk with farmers a lot. By June, July, many of you guys are thinking this is not gonna be good. This is not gonna be good. So that will be their time. Any more questions?
They are coming in. What about, sorry, David, or not to identify. What about, we're talking about options and, thinking back to last year, and, in July, it was difficult. There was no crop there, and kind of, farmers were put in a wait and see position. So, and I don't know if there's any advice there. Is it a question again of kind of knowing your risks and being aware of the situation?
Correct. So to me, it sounds simple, guys. Like sitting in comfy on my chair in my office sounds simple. But again, if you sign a contract, unfortunately by law, you need to. And it sounds awful what I'm going to say, but those contracts are long and painful to read, right? There's 4 pages. The letter is just that tiny. They printed in this. Actually, there's Cargill has those red ink copies for the farmers that is really hard to read, right? But when you sign a contract, well, you are obliged to give that grain to these people, right? To the elevators. Basically, it's a contract. It's a contract. So because through the years we've been doing contracts by text or by phone, yes, right? So sometimes we lose that importance of the contract, right? But the grain farms, the grain elevators use it to pre-sell it. So all the grain that's supposed to come is already sold at some price. And these people overseas are going to hold those companies accountable for it, right? And unfortunately, everything passed down to you guys, right? Because that's how things work. So if the buyer in China didn't get the grain, but he already pay, or was committed to, so he could come back to Cargill and tell, hey, you gotta pay me back, right? You gotta pay all the damage because I didn't get my grain. So Cargill is gonna say, well, okay, so I need to charge it back to the farmer, right? So that's how, unfortunately, that's how it works. So the other thing important is just read your contract, guys. I know it's painful. I know it's hard. I know nobody likes to do those things, but if we can make a poll right now to see out of this, I don't know how many people are on this call, how many actually read and know the contract? How many know that the contract being changed pretty much every couple of years? These contracts change, like the wording change. So I don't know. I don't know if you guys know, but that to me that would be important also, right? Just to read contracts. So unfortunately, bad year help us understand some things that we need to get better on. And to me, that's one of the things that we need to get better on, is just understand a little bit those contracts better and use that. Did I answer the question?
We're gonna do a poll in a few seconds here, just getting it ready. Before that, though, if we have another question, it's switching gears a bit. You know, one producer mentioned in the comments that, and maybe there's some advice here as well, is, you know, when producers are talking with the elevator, you know, what's your advice for them in terms of documentation? You know, it's good, of course, relationships are very important. It's good to you know, have those conversations, but is there a point to be made about documenting what you're saying and what you're hearing back, whether it be emails, texts? I mean, I'm sure some are still using fax too. Do you have any advice for farmers in that aspect?
100%. I would say everything in written, right? Everything in writing is good. A text message, where you keep it and you say, yes, remember, you scroll back and say, yeah, remember you said this to me, right? That's how you do it. Going to the elevator, of course, is good when you talk to your sales guy. So when you get an agreement with this person, ask him to send him an email, right? Right, you go and make an agreement with this guy at the office, at the elevator, to the fair, whatever is the agreement you're doing. Ask him to send you an email, right? Hey, buddy, send me an email with these points, or you send him an email asking for reply, right? So, hey, so this is the conversation we have. You take the time to get that in writing. I'm not saying that the elevators are trying to rip you off or things like that, but it's better to have those things in writing, right? So you know when the times come, if it comes, so you have it there in some sort of on your message or WhatsApp or whatever you guys do. Yeah, important. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
We're for everyone who's on the line, we're going to run a quick poll here in terms of contracts and reading, and so the options are yes, no, and sometimes. In terms of, you know, when you see a contract, are you reading it? Are you interacting it and kind of, you know, taking that time to learn it? So we'll run that now. Again, all results are anonymous. And we'll give everybody a few more seconds here. Certainly interesting results. About 35% say yes, definitively they are, you know, committed contract readers and understand the legalese, and 50% say sometimes. So that's about 15-16% there who say no, that they do not kind of review their contracts on an ongoing basis. Interesting, just from a straw poll.
It's really interesting. I'm pleased that you guys read the contract, the 32%. I'm really pleased because that's the way to do it, and read it like every time. So just remember, sometimes elevators change contracts and send you an email or a text just telling we change a contract, and sometimes you don't read it, you forget about it, but the contract change. And everything is good until it's not, right? Everything is fine until if you can deliver on time and have a good relationship. But when we have issues is when those contracts come up handy, right? Like those fees that people like elevators charge for delays or like those 15% fees that they charge, right? So do you guys know that it's changed from 5 to 15%, and it depends on the contract, right? Those fees change all the time. It's not always 10% or 12%. It change all the time. So small things like that is what I'm meaning on that. So I'm glad 32% of the population in this call is doing it. So that's great. Just keep encouraging people to do it and understand it and know where it comes from, so you can come back and help. Yeah, so for sure the contracts are made for these companies to secure the grain. So I'm not disagree with people when people say this is just for the good of these big companies. Yeah, I'm not disagree with you guys. That's right. It's just for that.
Did you want to take some more questions, Javier? I know I've kind of interrupted the presentation.
No, for
we
sure.
we do have a few, but
you know what, this is probably better because I will talk a little bit about our projections for 2022, and yeah, no, that is awesome.
Yeah, let's take some questions, and then I think timing will probably work out, and then wrap up on the year ahead. One comment, and not so much a question, but former CAP board member says that she picked up kind of some sage advice at a farm meeting years ago. Never pre-sell more than 80% of your crop insurance coverage until it's in the bin. There's a comment here too, or a question rather. When it comes to futures and future contracts, looking back, some farmers, short crop, huge rise on price in 2021. Can you get a bit into that rise in price using the futures in case prices rise dramatically after pre-selling?
Yeah. So and all these behaviors of the market they're well known, right? Every farmer knows, or most of the farmers knows that our behavior of the market, right? When the prices peak, when the prices go down, and usually those fluctuate a little bit, right? So we go back most of the times is why do you sell grain? Can you sell the grain in April, right? Can you hold all your grain to sell that in April when it's historically is getting one of the best prices, right? Can you? Probably can't, right? For all these reasons that I mentioned to you, is probably you can't. Probably you don't have people to move that grain in that time. So of course, all those behaviors of the prices are based on timing of farming, on knowing when you guys cannot move it, knowing when can they move grain out. Just remember other bigger thing that I want to mention that I forgot to mention is the rail movement, right? The rail movement dictate a lot of these things that happen at the farm, because if CN decided to not to show like this elevator here in Nesbitt, is the end of the railroad. So sometimes they don't get it, right? So they get stuck with 130,000 metric tons of grain and no movements at all. So even though the price is right, the price is high, they cannot buy it because they're full, right? So there's a big thing that happened also. If the grain go to east, they go through the lakes, right? And the lakes are frozen, so you cannot move grain. So even if the price are good and the elevators have the ability to buy it, they are not going to buy let's say a little bit of like if you have some canola with humidity a little bit high, they won't buy it, right? Because the risk for them is going to be high because they cannot move that canola in probably 2 months, right? All those things that happen internally in an elevator is what affect you guys on the delivery, right? And of course, the price is always that, but all those things happening internally that the farmers don't see it, and that's how dictate those things. Did I? Yeah. So other thing that I want to talk is this slide. It's just somebody was mentioned about that you pre-sold 20% of your 80% coverage or something like that. So to me, the most important thing is understand your break-even point, right? And I'm going to tell you this. When I was in the elevator here, we were offering $7 wheat at that time. $7 wheat, and I asked this farmer, they wasn't happy with the price, what his break-even point was, and he said to me that was $7.50. And I go, okay, sure, so we cannot pay. So the price dropped, of course, and he came back and dropped to $5 or $6. And I asked him again, so what is your break-even point? And he said it's $5. So to me, you need to understand, you need guys to understand your margin and all that. So this is a little bit of projection that we have for 2022. This is based on some numbers that we've been collecting. Of course, is a little bit of, it's still a projection, right, guys? This is not a real, like, this is not go for it. It's just a projection that we have, and talking with farmers and talking with some clients that already help us with some numbers. So those are the four biggest crops, right, in this area. Canola, this is the 5-year average, right? Spring wheat, corn, and soybeans. So we're thinking the project average price of canola for 2022 is about $17, a little bit more or less. If all the grain marketing gurus start telling, right? So we're thinking about that your yield kind of the same. Let's talk about, we're going to have a good year. We have good moisture, things like that. So the revenue is going to go up, but your expenses are going to go up. These production expenses, guys, M&P. So we only have four production expenses, which is your chemical fertilizer, seed treatments, and crop insurance. The only reason we do those four is because those four are the only four expenses that every single farmer in Canada has. So for us, it's easy to compare pairs with pairs. So we don't take fuel or rent or lease or nothing on those expenses, right? On this. So you see the difference. We're thinking about $75 per acre more in canola, just because your inputs are going through the roof, right? But at the same time, when you look at the gross margin, the gross margin is, you guys know, is your expenses minus your percentage, right? The gross margin, money-wise, like cash-wise, is $90 more, but your percentage is kind of the same, right? So you're moving more cash, so your risk is going to be super high. But at the end of the day, your gross margin percentage-wise is going to be the same, because the revenue is going to be high. So your risk is going to be high, right? You're going to put more money into it. You're going to receive more money into it. But at the end, whatever is going to stay in your pocket, we think is going to be the same. The other cost is your operating cost, your fuel, your rent, your taxes, your amortization, all those things. So what happened? So at the end of the day, we're thinking that even though the price of the inputs are going to be extremely high, right? But if this price keeps doing it, your net is going to be positive still. So how are you going to protect your risk, right? Because now instead $205 per input, you need to put 280 per acre. The way that you need to protect yourself is this one. What is your break-even point on yield and price? So at this point, this exercise tells us that if you have 28 bushels per acre in canola and you sell those at $13, you will break even. So everything you do more than that is going to be in your pocket. So is this number going to help you to market? Of course, it's going to help you to market, right? So the price of canola and Bungie, this is in 21st of January, was $18 for September, October, November, right? So if I come back and market 15 bushels an acre or 20 bushels an acre at $18, can you get, like in a normal year, just forget about last year, well, don't forget, but just kind of keep it back on your mind. Can you get 20 bushels of an acre of canola and sell it at $18 and you will break even? But those are the numbers that you need to do in your operation, right? Because these numbers are genetic numbers, right? That are genetic numbers. So you need to do this, you need to do your homework, right? Is this kind of my advice. You need to do your homework. You need to know what is your break-even point, right? So you can actually do it with some sort of securement and I would say educated projection of your risk. We're using the tools also that you have, right? Whatever type of contract you're going to base, whatever the contract, doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, but whatever the contract is, but if you sell it as a profit, you will be ahead, right? But this is one of the important things. So your crop insurance, same thing. Now that I changes, I encourage you guys to just spend some time and read the small print, understand how this thing work. We think we know they understand how they work, but sometimes we don't even know how this thing work. So I encourage you guys to do that, right? To do that. Use the tools that you have available for your benefit, but use it right. Use it with educated decisions and doing your homework. I call it homework. So this is a really interesting thing that I have for you guys. Questions?
Yeah, we got a number of really good questions in the chat. We also want to run another poll. We're thinking ahead, forward contracts. And one question was raised: how many producers this year going into 2022 are considering reducing their forward contracts? So we're going to run another straw poll here for about 20 seconds. Feel free to answer that when it pops up on your screen. We'll run that for a few more seconds. And the results would be about 40. So let's see here. We had 38 people who participated. 45% are planning to, 55% are not planning to reduce their forward contracting in 2022. A question coming out of that as well is, looking at options for this year, it's certainly individual operations, of course, and decision making, but is your recommendation or is a good mix to use forward contracts, future contracts, grain options to offset some of those risks as we go into 2022? Absolutely.
My experience working for Cargill, I work for Cargill now. I'm talking. I'm not trying to sell Cargill products or anything, but there is a bunch of stuff, bunch of those contracts. When people use them to minimize their risk, they'll help big time, right? Big time, having the right amount grain moving to this point, knowing your knowing this number, your break-even point, right? And also knowing what is your target for margin. So sometimes we get a little bit and this is just a human nature. We get a little bit greedy, and my gross margin target, or my revenue target is 10%. My revenue 10%, and then when we hit 10%, now we want 12, or we want 13 or 14%. So all that, but there is a bunch of tools that they can be used on your benefit. But we need to understand it, all those tools for sure. Big combination of both is that. But what happened? Go back a little bit to last year, is all these storming prices going up and down. That was what doesn't help with this with these contracts, right? Because you secure your price at some number, and then you see those prices going up. And again, this is not just on the farm, on the grain part of the business. The hogs business do this exactly the same thing, right? The hogs you can pre-sold in the futures, but nobody thought about the futures going to go so high. So the people who locked down this number lost a lot of money. People who didn't get all these high prices, right? Because that was that's what the market told them. So the question that nobody can answer is 2022 going to be the same, right? Are the markets going to behave exactly the same, or are we going to go back to kind of a normal year, and then the markets slowly start going down? A bunch of indicators tell that the market is going to stay up, right? There's a bunch of indicators that tell us that. So if we are a bullish person, I would say, yeah, the market is going to go high, and we're gonna get to see high prices. And if Bungie is offering me $18 and I think it's going to go at $22, well, can my operation be okay with that? Can I survive to put a crop in 2023 if I don't get the $22, the $23 an acre and a bushel for canola? That's the question that you gotta know. It doesn't matter on my mind, it doesn't matter if you go to 25 or 26. What matters to me is, are you making enough money and enough profit to be sustainable, keep growing if that's what you want, and make profit. It doesn't matter on my mind. Doesn't matter how high it goes. What matters is my operation. In my operation, I'm making money. I'm efficient. I'm making good money. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. So for sure, we don't know that. But all this, the market is telling us they're going to keep high. So that's why some people say, no, I'm never going to. They're going to forward this year forward contracts because they're probably going to go to 25. But we don't know, right? We don't know I don't know what happened with politics. Mr. Biden say something stupid and the markets crash, or we don't have Trump anymore, but he might, right? So things like that we don't know. We don't have control of it. But the important thing is knowing your operation and making sure you are selling your grain at profit. That's what is important. How the market react and how much is going to be. I don't know how many people sold canola at $25. For sure, many guys that I work with, that know many of them did. Just I can count it with one hand, how many did. So how many actually sold at that point? So I don't know. But again, it's just based on your operation. Just start thinking a little bit more on how your operation works, and if you sell grain at profit, you are going in the right direction. That's all. No,
I think, Javier, if you want to, we have a few more minutes left before 10 o'clock here. So if you wanted to talk a bit more on 2022 and the year ahead, I think we've got a few minutes.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So one of the things that I've been telling my clients on this 2022 year was people is going to back off on fertilizer, right? Because it's too expensive. So and I always tell them, don't do that, right? Don't back off on fertilizer. Prices are high. You know that. We know that. But use the tools that you have to lock your prices at profit, right? So again, do your analysis, do your expenses, do your projection to see how much can you afford, right? And based on prices that you can get access to it, based on those prices, you lock that production. Go back to this right, you shift your price risk just into your production risk. Selling it at, let's say canola again, $18, you're gonna be 20% profitable. So you're okay with that, 20% or 25%. So you're okay with that. So now you gotta wait, have a good spring and good growing season and having a good crop into it, right? So knowing all those things is important. I also encourage you guys to have the conversation with the elevators right now, right? When you sign, if you are the people who are gonna sign the contract is having the conversation again. So okay, what happened? Let's talk about this before it happened, if it happened, right? Make all those have an open conversation. So it's a way that I can get out. Can you offer me something that I can get out of it, right? Easy or things like that. So that would be my advice for this year. And again, if you guys want to keep talking, I'll be more than happy to it. This is my contact information at MMP. Again, my cell phone. I'm working from home most of the time. So that's my email address. One of the members there, Andrew Malnichenko, he knows me, so he probably has my number still, I hope. So yeah, I'd be more than happy to talk to you guys or talk about risk management more in depth and help you with the tool that we have for just specific for you guys.
Thanks so much for joining us today, Javier. We really appreciate it. Marketing and education is a big part of what we've been working on at CAP, and it's going to be a big part of the work for farmers to do over the next few weeks and into the spring here. So this has been really timely, and we appreciate you coming to talk about this and answer questions.
Awesome. No, I'm happy to be here. And again, if you guys have questions, shoot me a text or email or call me or whatever. I'll be more than happy to talk.